So something's been happening this week. The way I'm working has been changing. And in individual sessions, I don't know if it will be true in a group. Because in individual sessions, we are working with specific illnesses or situations or karma for that person. And normally the people I'm working with quite enjoy kind of channeling, the channeled energies coming in. And that's just been getting very potent this week. And normally, whereas the channeled energies may come in a little bit later in the session, they've just been dropping in right at the beginning. And I don't know if those channeled energies are from me per se, or whether it's a particular intelligence for that person, or whether it's just coming down into the space. But always before I make a little prayer, as with the webinars, I make a little prayer, for the earth energies to join and for beneficial higher energies to join and to help. But in the webinars, I say there are channels coming in that are coming through me, because when I'm talking, there's a specific type of energy comes through. And then when I run the meditations, a stronger energy comes through. Normally the screen just turns kind of blank and there's just strong energy coming through. But I don't actually talk those energies in. They may, quite often they come in for the last 10 minutes or something like that, but it's very definitely beckoned in by the people in the group. It's just people's energies are doing that. And because that's been quite strong this week, I thought about kind of at the beginning of the meditation, just talking those energies in. And I thought I'd let you know about this in advance. And I just wanted to check if that is okay with people. Put your hands up if that is okay. Okay, that's everyone, I think. Okay, everyone, good. Because I don't want to do it if it's going to make anyone feel uncomfortable. I think a lot of people will just do it regardless, but I always like to let people know what's coming down. And I don't know if anything will happen at all. But my impression is we are at quite a strong crossroads at the minute. And people feel quite powerless in the face of what's going on in lots of different ways around them. It seems like, there's all sorts of stuff happening. And I know a lot of people, and just about every session I do, a lot is taken up by this kind of bewilderment, and how do I deal with all of these world politics and situations and climate change? How do I have any effect in that? But what there does seem to be at the minute is a spiritual answer for that. I don't know if answer is the right word, but help in that department. In times of crisis and world crisis, there's a big chance to move forwards. And certainly I don't know how to do that, and I don't know how to do healing and different things, but it's a bit like these beings and energies, and they do know or they can help. So at the beginning of the meditation, I will just talk that in a little bit, and let's just see how that goes. And we've done 2 blue energy webinars so far. I think we've done 2. In the first one, we were very much bringing in the energies of the urethra and the penis and vagina, which is very strong sexual energy and connects to the earth, and also creates a kundalini that rises through the body. We were connecting to all of the organs, which are the kidneys, the adrenals, the bladder, the urethra, vagina and penis. But you know, in the first one it was more that majorly the vagina, penis and urethra. In the second one, it just moved up into the bladder, and that became a nice place to sit into. It's a lot to do with relaxation and connecting that circuit. A lot of stress, especially for healers, empaths, sensitive people, what's happening in the environment around them or whatever's happening in their life, can connect into the bladder and cause a lot of stress there, and that crystallizes and then grows more, and it stops the energy flowing properly through that circuit. So the more grounded sexual energies of the penis and vagina don't rise through the body so easily, giving everything energy. And the energies that build up in the kidneys and adrenals, they can't drop down through the circuit, and so they rise, which hands over to becoming hyper, worn out, stressed and things like that. So we spent that whole webinar just letting the bladder release and allowing the energies to connect through there. In this one, whether it will go that way, I'm feeling it much more strongly in the kidneys. So I mentioned in the email that the newsletter that the kidneys were a lot to do with our perception of our own sexuality, and this whole circuit is to do with sexuality in a way. But you do have the left hand side kidney and the right hand side kidney, and I perceive these as male and female. In myself, I perceive the right hand kidney as holding more male qualities, and the left hand kidney as holding more female qualities, and it may be different for other people. And so it becomes possible to favor your inner female or your inner male, and let that be part of your energies and how you promote yourself, which in turn is affected by how you've been brought up, the images in the media about how your sexuality should be, whether you feel yourself to be a man, whether you feel yourself to be a woman, this, that, or the other. It becomes possible to kind of manipulate your sexual preferences of yourself in a way, to a certain extent, which is kind of okay. But also what happens through admonishment, or as a child, or trauma, or being how your parents want you to be, one side or other of that circuit becomes traumatized. So you end up only being able to portray the more feminine side of yourself, or only able to portray the more male side of yourself. And for me, this is my own personal opinion. I've got to say that it's not backed by anything else. The kind of mess that people get into: am I a woman? Am I a man? Am I a woman trapped in a man's body? Am I a man trapped in a woman's body? Am I very female? Am I... It's not necessary to change anything. It's not necessary to do anything to yourself to fit into any of those roles. You kind of... People are what they are. They are what God's given them. And that is fine. I guess I'm just totally against people having operations to change their body to fit in with what they perceive themselves to be. You know, if for me, if people are like that, in my mind, if you are or feel to be a woman in a man's body, that's beautiful. No need to have terrible operations. I've known nothing but trouble from these operations, or the other way round. You know, for me that always looks beautiful, seeing a very female man or a very male woman. For me, there's something beautiful about that middle ground. And I think we hesitate or maneuver our energies away from being the other. If we're male, through how society is seen, we educate our energy away from being a female male. And if we're a woman, quite often, I don't know, but I guess, educate yourself away from being more male in your energies. But for me, this is something that just flows backwards and forwards, and there's a certain channeling, certainly in holographic breathing, where we're bringing our internal male and our internal woman together to create the kundalini that releases through the spine and up into the higher self. Rather than being an imposition, it becomes something that causes great truth, healing and enlightenment. No need to manipulate anything. But what we will be working with this evening is to let the energies go through both. And you might find one side harder than the other, or you can run it in different ways. You can run it down one tube to the bladder and up the other tube to the other kidney, or back and forth. You can run these energies in any way, and none of that is a problem. But if there's blocks there that close off a certain way of doing that, we want to let the energies go through, so you have the full paint box, as it were, of what can happen in those areas, and the full resources of letting all of those energies run in an inner way. You don't have to portray these energies out in your normal life or through your normal persona. This can be, you know, a total just experimental alchemical thing you can do for yourself. And you can feel, as a man, you can feel very female, and as the energies clear through, then that often moves to the other side and back again. I presume the same thing is happening for women. And we may favour one or the other, or not want to portray one or the other. And you don't have to portray them outside of yourself. This is an inner journey. You cannot just allow them for yourself. The other thing about the kidneys is it's a very potent energy, and it's very worn out for a lot of people. It's the basic, intrinsic energy that we come into this life with. It's our reservoir of energy. And there's lots of other energies, but if you start depleting that base energy, that is when you can become very tired and chronically tired and find it very hard to get back. And breathing and working with the kidneys starts activating that and giving you a way of resourcing that fundamental basic ground of energy. And very often, as from the last webinar, if the bladder is blocked and the adrenals are firing with this fight flight, this will take the energy from the kidneys. The adrenals will take the energy from the kidneys and fire it up the body, and the kidneys will just get more and more depleted. Whereas it's really nice to be able to work with this set of organs so it's a clear passage all of the way through. So rather than the adrenals going off in this fight flight thing all the time, that natural energy from the adrenals can fire down into the kidneys can fire down into the bladder can fire down into the penis vagina, and that can earth the stress that is picking up in the adrenals and kidneys. So we're working with all of that and the channels seem to want to come through even though we haven't got to the meditations yet. So yeah, there's a very strong, and this is a lot to do with our spine. We're going to be working with the spines a lot. What's talking at the minute is the top thoracics, kind of to do with the kidneys, adrenals, bladder, penis, vagina, and when the energy goes through that, it opens up this circuit. I wasn't going to work with that part of the spine, but a strong message to allow that to open through the group, which makes everything very strong. As I think just talking about letting those energies in, they're just coming in whatever. It's quite hard to talk really without taking it into a meditation, but I need to explain a little bit about what we're going to be doing. So we will be relating to this, to the cranial energies. And you've got in the brain you've got the glial cells, the brain cells, and they're surrounded by cranial fluid. And then in the ventricles, this is just a space full of cranial fluid. And then around the whole brain and around the spine, there's also a layer of just cranial fluid, and or as I call it, the cranial sea. And it's these empty areas where it's just cranial fluid, surrounded by two membranes, and that's it, that relates to the blue energy circuit. I don't know why that is, but it just seems to be that. So it's not just the cranial fluid. So it is the ventricles, which I'll show pictures around the brain, around the spinal cord. It's also the pleural fluid around the lungs. You've got the pleura, two membranes, one around the lungs and one just, I think, on the insides of the ribs, and between that you've got the pleural fluid for each lungs, which again I think is very close to being water, the same as cranial fluid. This also relates to the blue energies, and we'll be working with that. And in the nerves, where the cranial fluid travels off through the myelinating glial cells, a cross-section of a myelinating glial cell, it's a layer of fluid surrounded by two membranes. And in the nerves, as they travel out, it's cranial fluid between membranes. Now, in the actual nerves, this is more to do with the adrenals, but as we're working a lot with the kidneys, it will kick into that a lot. But let's just look at some pictures of the there's not can't find it. I spent a long time painting these pictures. I had nothing to do. I was homeless, living in my van in nature. So it's about 10 years ago. So I just started painting these pictures of how I see the cranial sea. They've been invaluable ever since, because they show the cranium in a way that is not really shown anywhere else. I've lost the pictures completely now. Where are they? What have I done? Oh, look, there's the one I wanted. There we have just the ventricles. The one that looks a bit like a chicken bone. There's two of those, one in each side of the cerebrum. Then you've got the third ventricle in the middle, and it drops down to the fourth ventricle, and then down the center of the spine. I'll do this sideways so you can see it. I can't see the screen though. There it's sideways. At the top you have the ventricles coming down. Can you see how they kind of mirror the kidneys, adrenals, bladder, and urethra? There they are at the top. There they are at the bottom. So we'll be working with that. I'm in a total mess this evening. I sorted these pictures out and now I've lost them all. Where are they? Oh, there they are. Huh. There they are. There they are. See that Mr. and Mrs. E.T. One from the front and one from the side. See, when you put the stem in, they never show them with the stem, but can you see how if you put in how it travels down the spine, it totally grounds them and they become little beings. If it's just the top, they're a bit decapitated. So the Mr. and Mrs. E.T. cranial fluids, and I call that bottom stem, that's the fifth ventricle for me. There it is around the spine, spinal cord, with all the nerves coming out the spinal cord, and then the top around, that looks like the cerebellum at the back there. And then at the bottom of the spine it just becomes nerves and cranial fluid, or cranial sea, and that's surrounded by the dura, a membrane around the whole thing. There they are, integrated into the brain and the brain stem. The lateral ventricles wrapped around the thalamus, the third ventricle inside the thalamus, the fourth ventricle drops down through the brain stem, then down through the spine. Here we have from the face. Now this is kind of half two-dimensional, half three-dimensional. The thalamus will spread out to the back, so the lateral ventricles are wrapping around the thalamus, attached to the thalamus all the way around, and then the third ventricle is dead center in the thalamus. The fourth ventricle is this diamond in the brain stem, and it comes down the spinal cord. Okay, that'll do for that. So the points. I'm learning how to be with this channel and talk. That's clever. So the cheekbones and coming up around the eyes, this is the blue energies, and then it comes around for the cranium, it comes around the ears, the prostate, Shivan. Okay, little message there. For me, a lot of people see this picture as part of the sexual organs, or in particular the female genitalia, or a mother type thing. And it's interesting for me that the choroid plexus that creates the cranial sea in these ventricles, I think it's the only place in the body that works in the same way as the placenta, in that the capillaries are in a sac of endothelial cells, and rather than the fluid just coming out of the arterial capillaries and into that sac, the capillaries actually open and everything comes out into that sac, and then the endothelial cells, ependymal cells, filter that out into the ventricles. And that is the same as in the placenta. The mother's capillaries are coming into the placenta, and rather than just the fluid coming out the capillaries open and all the fluid comes out. And then you've got the placenta, which is part of the baby's blood circulation. The baby's heart is pumping the blood to the placenta and back, and then if that blood is filtered into the placenta through the membrane from the baby. So it looks very female and part of the female genitalia, and the choroid plexus have got a lot of similarities to how the blood works in the placenta. And there will be something to do with, it will be reflected in what happens in the men as well, because the uterus in the woman relates to the prostate in the men. So there's a lot of different things going back and forth there, and absolutely the in a lot of ways the cerebellum looks like a larger prostate. Anyway, we got sidetracked a little bit there. So blue energies across here. This is the blue energies for the cranium. It's kind of the adrenals, kidneys, bladder, penis, vagina, and then it goes the other way in the face. It's the adrenals, kidneys, bladder, penis, vagina, and it connects the eyes. In the cranium, vagina and penis in the middle, then, oh no, vagina and penis here in the third eye, and it comes up vertically to the bladder and then out to the sides. You've got the kidneys and adrenals. So that's how we'll be opening that circuit. You don't have to remember any of this. I'll just talk it out into the meditation. The collarbones, a lot to do with the blue energies. We'll be working with those. The outsides of the shoulders here, energy points for those organs. In the pelvis, the same way as you have that ring around the face and cranium, you have it in the pelvis. This top bone here, it would be like the cheekbones for the face, and where it carries on around this rim, that's like the inside of the cranium in that same area that the blue energy is. So there's this whole inner rim here. It's to do with the blue energies, and on the outside, and where it goes into the sacroiliac joints at the back. These are really important. As we release the bladder, vagina, penis and urethra here, there's a lot of releasing here, and unless you release it at the same time in the sacroiliac joints at the back, which is like the penis, vagina and urethra area in the sacrum, you get tightness there, so they release together. And then lower down, it's the outside of the hips and the groin, these tendons on the inside of the groin where they're dropping down into the legs. This is like the bladder and penis and vagina and urethra, and then when it comes to the top outside of the legs here, this is the kidneys and adrenals on either side. So those are the points we're going to be using to open up the blue energies. I've got no idea what's going to happen, because I can already feel all this spiritual energy coming down. That's actually, I don't think it wants me to talk, it just wants to get onto the meditation. So we're going to do that. I don't think there's anything to say. Let's just check with time.